And I know obviously your first trainer, Ben Getty, someone obviously very crucial to your upbringing, sadly passed away. Like, how do you sort of remember him these days?
I remember him with every punch that I throw, with every push-up that I do, with every sweat that drips down my face. The boxer that Keith Thurman is and will ever be in boxing is because of the dedication of that man, Ben Getty, who took me from the age of 7 to the age of 20. I think I was about 11-0 with 11 knockouts by the time Ben passed away. So he did take me from an amateur to a pro, but at the age of 14, 15 years old, he told everybody in the Tampa Bay area, no matter where we went, Orlando, anywhere in Florida, tournaments, he says, this boy right here is going to be champion of the world one day. He always told me to stay off the streets, stay away from the girls, stay away from the drugs, you know, and he just was always encouraging me that I had a future in the sport of boxing. He believed in me before I believed in me. It wasn't until my first fight on HBO where I fought, Adrian Broner was the main event, and I was the co-feature. First time on HBO. I made my first six-figure payday, $125,000. It was a big step up in my career. I won that night, and on that night, I was ranked number 10 in the top 10 in the sport of boxing. It's as if you have made it. Welcome to the big boy show, you know? And it was on that day, as I entered the top 10, that I saw Adrian Broner perform. And I knew Adrian Broner, I was making 6 figures that night. And I knew Adrian Broner was making 7 figures that night. It was on that night that the words of Ben Getty were true. You are $1 million fighter, boy. And that day was the first day of my life where I always hoped, I always dreamed, I always worked for it. But then you haven't seen it. And even though I only made 100,000, I knew that the platform was there on HBO, on Showtime, in the major arenas in the sport of boxing. And it was just a matter of time that Keith Thurman would be champion of the world and that I too would be $1 million fighter. And so I will always remember Ben Getty, and the punches that you are gonna come and see Wednesday night are gonna be the fundamentals of what Ben Getty taught me at 7 years old.
Do you have any sort of idea where you'd be without him, without his influence on your early career?
There is no Keith one-time Thurman without Ben Getty. You know, he was a military man. He was a war veteran who's served in Vietnam. Towards his later years, right before he passed, he was suffering from Agent Orange, the chemical warfare that was done in Vietnam. And because of that, he had to retire a little early from the school system as the head custodian because he could no longer go up ladders because of the way that Agent Orange was eating him from the inside out and deteriorating muscle structure. So he was in a lot of pain. He was on morphine daily. So it was very unfortunate that my coach didn't get to see me become a world champion. But I know the pain that he was in his physical body, and I know God doesn't make mistakes. That this world that we live in is somehow perfectly imperfect. And I believe through my faith that I've grown up with, through the things that I've seen with my own eyes, the blessings that I've received in this lifetime, that when Ben Getty passed away, I said, God would not take something away from me that I need in life, because everything that I've ever needed, I've been provided with. I said, so on this day, if Ben is no longer here, then that means that he taught me what I needed to know. I'm just 20 years old. You haven't heard the name Keith Thurman yet. But I said God must have allowed Ben to teach me what I need to know so that I can become the world champion that he saw many years before. And so all I've ever wanted to do, the day I was at his funeral, the world thought all friends and family thought that I would have something to say. Ironically enough, the trainer that I have now, Tony Morgan, who had Andre Berto in the Olympics and Andre Berto when he was a world champion, he was with Ben, me and Ben at the funeral. Everyone thought I would speak. Tony spoke. Tony had a lot to say. And they looked at me and I said I didn't want to speak because on that day, there was nothing to say. There was a lot of work to do. And I promised myself that I would become world champion so that Ben Getty would never tell a lie.